Welcome back, brave souls, to Midnight Delight, where nightmares come to play. Tonight, we delve into the mysterious and terrifying world of Bigfoot, with 3 spine-chilling encounters that will make you question the boundaries between myth and reality. Turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let the darkness take hold as we journey into the heart of the forest where Bigfoot lurks in the shadows. These tales are not for the faint of heart, so prepare yourself for an unforgettable night of fear and suspense. Let's begin. It was a crisp autumn evening, and I decided to go camping alone in the remote wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. I'd always loved the solitude and the serenity of the forest, the way the trees whispered secrets to each other as the wind blew through their branches. Little did I know I would soon be caught in a nightmarish encounter that would change my life forever. I set up my tent in a small clearing surrounded by towering pine trees. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor. I built a small campfire, cooked a simple meal, and settled down to enjoy the tranquility. As the darkness deepened, the sounds of the forest came alive. The hooting of an owl, the rustle of leaves, and the occasional snap of a twig. Around midnight, I decided to turn in for the night. The fire had burned down to embers and the forest was pitch black. I crawled into my sleeping bag, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. But that peace was soon shattered by an eerie, distant howl. It wasn't like anything I'd heard before. It was deep, guttural, and sent shivers down my spine. At first, I thought it might be a wolf or a coyote, but as the howl grew louder and closer, I knew it was something else entirely. I lay still, straining to hear any other sounds. That's when I noticed the heavy, rhythmic footsteps approaching my campsite. Whatever it was large, and it was getting closer. I held my breath, heart pounding in my chest. The footsteps stopped just outside my tent, and I could hear deep, labored breathing. The tent fabric rustled as something or someone brushed up against it. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Could it be a bear? But bears don't howl like that. Summoning all my courage, I slowly unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. In the dim moonlight, I saw a massive, shadowy figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was covered in dark, matted hair and stood at least 8 feet tall. Its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, reflecting the fire's dying embers. I froze, not daring to move or make a sound. The creature seemed to be studying me, its eyes piercing through the darkness. I could feel its gaze, cold and intense, as if it was deciding what to do next. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. After what felt like an eternity, the creature let out a low, menacing growl. It turned and disappeared into the forest, its heavy footsteps fading into the distance. I didn't move until the first light of dawn began to break through the trees. Only then did I muster the courage to pack up my campsite and leave as quickly as possible. That night in the woods left me with more questions than answers. Was it really Bigfoot that I encountered? Or was it something else entirely? All I know is that the fear I felt was real, and it's an experience I'll never forget. I've always been an adventurous person, never one to shy away from exploring the unknown, and that's how I found myself on a solo night hike in the dense forests of Oregon. I'd heard the local legends about Bigfoot, but like many, I dismissed them as just stories. How wrong I was. The hike started off well enough. The forest was beautiful in the moonlight, with shadows dancing among the trees and the cool night air filling my lungs. I had my flashlight and a small backpack with essentials, confident in my ability to navigate the trails I knew so well. A few hours in, I decided to veer off the main path to explore a less traveled area. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the sounds of civilization faded away, replaced by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. And that's when I noticed it. A foul, pungent odor that seemed to come out of nowhere. It was like a mix of wet dog and rotting meat, strong enough to make my eyes water. I tried to ignore it, but the smell grew stronger with each step I took. Suddenly, I heard a loud snap behind me. Whirling around, I shone my flashlight into the darkness, but saw nothing. My heart raced as the realization hit me. I wasn't alone. I strained my ears trying to catch any sound, but the forest was eerily silent. I decided to head back to the main trail, my sense of unease growing with each passing moment. But as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. A massive, shadowy figure standing just beyond the reach of my flashlight's beam. It was huge, easily over 9 feet tall, and covered in dark, matted fur. Its eyes glowed an eerie yellow in the darkness, and I could feel its gaze locked onto me. I froze, unable to move, my mind racing with fear. The creature let out a low growl that seemed to vibrate through my entire body. It took a step closer, and I could hear the heavy thud of its footfall. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs felt like they were made of lead. Summoning all my courage, I slowly backed away, keeping my flashlight trained on the creature. It followed me, matching my pace, its growl growing louder and more menacing. I knew I couldn't outrun it. It was too big, too fast. In a desperate attempt to escape, I turned and sprinted through the trees, my flashlight bouncing wildly in my hand. I could hear the creature crashing through the underbrush behind me, its growls turning into deafening roars. My lungs burned as I pushed myself to run faster than I ever had before. Just when I thought I couldn't go any further, I stumbled into a small clearing and tripped over a fallen log. I hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of me. Grasping for breath, I looked up to see the creature standing at the edge of the clearing, its eyes glowing with a terrifying intensity. It let out a blood-curdling scream, the sound echoing through the forest. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline pumping through my veins, and ran as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the main trail and saw the faint glow of my campsite in the distance. I burst into the campsite, collapsing near the fire, my body trembling with fear and exhaustion. The creature didn't follow me any further, but its screams continued to haunt the night. That night hike changed me forever. I'll never forget the terror I felt, or the sight of that monstrous figure in the darkness. It was supposed to be a relaxing weekend getaway at a secluded cabin deep in the woods of the Pacific Northwest. I had been looking forward to some peace and quiet, away from the hustle and bustle of city life. Little did I know my peaceful retreat would turn into a night of terror. I arrived at the cabin late in the afternoon. It was a quaint, rustic place, surrounded by dense forest. The nearest town was miles away, and I relished the thought of being completely alone. After unpacking my things, I decided to explore the surrounding area. As the sun began to set, I made my way back to the cabin, ready to settle in for the night. The evening started off peaceful enough. I built a fire in the fireplace, cooked a simple meal, and curled up with a good book. The silence of the forest was comforting, but as the night wore on, that comfort turned into an eerie stillness. The usual sounds of the forest seemed to vanish, replaced by an oppressive silence. Around midnight, I heard it, a loud, echoing knock on the side of the cabin. It sounded as if someone or something had struck the wooden wall with immense force. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze, listening intently. The knocking continued, slow and deliberate, sending chills down my spine. I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously approached the window. Shining the beam outside, I saw nothing but darkness. I tried to convince myself it was just a branch or an animal, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The knocking stopped, only to be replaced by a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the walls. Fear gripped me as I realized I wasn't alone. I quickly locked all the doors and windows, hoping to keep whatever it was outside. But the growling grew louder, and soon I heard heavy footsteps circling the cabin. It sounded like a giant was pacing just outside, and with each step, my fear intensified. I decided to stay in the living room where the fire still provided some light and warmth. The footsteps stopped, and for a moment, there was silence. Then, the cabin shook violently as something massive slammed against the door. I could hear the wood creaking and splintering under the pressure. Desperation set in, and I knew I had to do something. I grabbed a hunting rifle that was mounted on the wall, a relic left by the cabin's previous owner. With shaking hands, I aimed it at the door, hoping it would be enough to deter whatever was trying to get in. Another slam, and this time, the door began to give way. I could see the outline of a massive, hairy figure through the gaps in the door. It was tall, easily over 8 feet, with broad shoulders and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. I fired a warning shot, the sound echoing through the cabin. The creature let out an ear-piercing roar, and for a moment, I thought it would break through. But then, it stopped. The footsteps retreated, growing fainter until they disappeared into the night. I didn't sleep a wink for the rest of the night, sitting by the fire with the rifle in my lap. When the first light of dawn finally broke, I cautiously opened the door and stepped outside. There were massive footprints in the dirt, leading away from the cabin and into the dense forest. I left the cabin that morning, vowing never to return. The memory of those terrifying hours is etched into my mind, a constant reminder of my encounter with Bigfoot. And there you have it, 3 terrifying encounters with Bigfoot that will haunt your dreams and make you think twice about venturing into the woods alone. Thank you for joining us tonight on Midnight Delight. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more spine-chilling tales. Share your own stories in the comments below and let us know which encounters send shivers down your spine the most. Until next time, stay safe and remember, some legends are all too real.